truth.
No chaser.
Welcome to Truth No Chaser. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Jay.
And I'm Frank. And this is the podcast for Black people, by Black people, about everything Black.
This is our flagship production. It is a shot of truth, stirred with bold opinions, reversing the miseducation of the Black community as it relates to culture, health, and politics.
And this evening we have Miss Phaedra joining us. Welcome to Truth No Chaser.
Thank you.
Miss Phaedra, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
Happy to be here with us.
I am. This is my. I actually am happy.
Yeah,
I'm happy to be here. It's my
sometimes.
first podcast. So.
Well, we happy to have you. We like
Right.
movies.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
They don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Well,
You
before
see
we
how
get,
fun it is.
right. And then you'll want to come back.
Right.
Or create your own podcast.
Right. That's the
Before we get into the questions with this conversation, let's get into her bio. Phaedra Mashburn Olamo is an occupational therapist and owner of the Neighborhood OT, specializing in healthy aging in place for older adults. She received her BS in occupational therapy from Florida A&M and her MS in healthcare administration from Utica College. In addition to being a licensed registered OT, she's also a certified case manager, certified dementia practitioner, and certified aging in place specialist. Bringing 18 years of practice in one of her most fond experiences of childhood that would lead her to her career was she often accompanied her grandmother and great aunt during weekly outings where they visited the sick and shut-in members of their church. The Neighborhood OT was created to provide older adults and family caregivers in our community with the education, skills, and training needed to safely remain in their homes as they age as safely as possible for as long as possible. Let's welcome Miss Phaedra.
Yes. Welcome.
Thank you.
Beautiful bio.
quite a noble,
Yes.
I guess noble reasons to go into your field.
Absolutely.
Makes it honest.
Yeah. And
Passionate.
very passionate about it. I'm a grandma's girl, so yeah. I mean, just my earliest experiences of, she was a mother of the church, and she, visiting people and just seeing how receptive people were, and you just don't really realize how much that impacts people when someone takes their time out and comes to see them.
Right.
So yeah, those experiences definitely just formed who I am in terms of being for the community, and especially the passion I have for people who live in remote places, because I grew up in the country, and there's not a lot of access. So this is why these conversations are very important.
What would you be asked to do during the visits for sick and shut-in, stuff like that? What's some of the things that you would do?
As a kid, sit down and shut up.
No, really.
Right.
So it's just
Yeah,
it was just
tag along.
observing.
I was tagging along.
Observing was
you know.
was it?
Yeah,
okay.
but my grandmother, what they would do, she and my aunt, they were the elders of the church, the mother and mothers of the church, and I was just a child accompanying them, and so they would, go out, they would pray with the members, bring them food.
Yeah.
But I've always had, I've always been good in science, and I've always wanted to help. The reason why all of this kind of ties in is because my grandmother, who lived in a rural area, as she aged, she didn't have access to people like me, and I lived away. And so she would always say to me, make sure that you go out and see people. And there are some people, like, make sure you go to the far areas. We need help too. And this was, once I started doing home health, and I realized that the impact that I can make in a person's home, that it was really important, because, home is where people want to be.
Right.
And that's why this aging in place conversation is happening now.
Right. You said the South, like, see, they kind of strayed away from that a little bit up north, where we had a sick and shut-in list, but we just really gave them shout-outs on you understand what I'm saying? And then,
Every Sunday.
Then my grandmother, let's say,
Let's pray.
Pastor said your name, and this and that, and that was good enough for them.
Right.
Yeah.
They prayed for you at church.
They prayed for you today at church.
Nobody really going to see you.
Ain't nobody dropping off no food.
Right. Yeah, it's
really
definitely changed. I mean, that was back in the day. So I'm an 80s. I grew up in 80. I was born in 80, so back in those days, See,
I say up north, but like we had a lot of Southern culture because of the people that we were raised around. You understand what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
they try to implement some of that stuff, but you know, we're not as rural, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It makes a difference.
Yeah, so that definitely makes a difference. So, you know, that's the only reason why I even know what a sick and shut-in is, because it derived from, like, the Carolinas, where most of the people are from, you know.
Exactly.
So.
And they still do it. Because I did home health in New York. And, you know, I worked for HHC, New York City Health and Hospitals. And a lot of my patients, sometimes I was the only person who was seeing them, who was coming to visit. But members of their church would come. You know, so they still have that. And that's that generation. That generation...
that's a dying breed, boy, for real.
So it is a dying breed, right? It's a dying breed, and we're coming up next. So the next generation is like our parents. And what happens now is that we moved away from home.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So now you're taking care of them.
Right. I don't got no family in New York. I got like 2 cousins.
See, you know, you moved away from home. Do you live close to your parents, though?
Yeah, they live in North Carolina, so I'm like 6 hours away.
Okay, so you're 6 hours away. So what we're seeing now is that as people get older, their family members that would help them age in place or get, you know, stay in their homes or take care of them, because if help is needed, they don't have access to them.
Got you.
You know, look, I was far away from my parents.
Right,
we just moved here a year ago. So, you know, those type of things make it difficult, because people seem to think that you can just go to a nursing home. People really think that that's an option, and that Medicare pays for it. Medicare does not pay for long-term stay in a nursing home. They don't. So
say that again, please, because I didn't know that.
Say
that again, please.
Medicare does not cover long-term placement in a nursing home. What Medicare covers is, like, you know, 100 days of short-term stay rehab. Medicaid will cover a long-term stay. But there are a lot of people who don't even qualify Medicaid programs.
Right.
And even those those beds are very few, right? Very few. So, you know, most people seem to think, you know what, I'll just go in a nursing home. Well, that's in Georgia, that's $83,000 a year. That's how much nursing home care costs. If you have Medicaid, if you have Medicaid and you're able to get a long-term bed, that's great. If you need that level of care, someone has to determine that, hey, this person is not safe to be at home. They need a lot of assistance in 24-hour care. The issue with that is that the nursing homes only have a certain amount of long-term beds. And so there's a long waiting list for that. Nursing homes are also very picky. We have a lot of people who are on dialysis now. And I have had like referral sources or people who are doing intake for nursing homes say, you know what? We met our quota for patients who are on dialysis. So unfortunately, we can't accept this referral. Or this patient is over 350 pounds. So Medicaid or not, we can't accept them. So it's very difficult. Now, Georgia has some Medicaid programs that help people age in place. So aging in place just means you're getting older wherever you want to get older.
Okay.
And it should be in your home. Because, you know, it's your home, and most people want to stay in their homes. The challenge is, there are a couple challenges. First challenge is that we change as we get older, but our homes don't. So going up the stairs at 25 is not going to be the same at 60, 65, 70, right? And so what I do is I go in and do an assessment, a needs assessment, to determine, you know, how much assistance someone needs with something, what's safe. Okay. A lot of people are falling into homes, and so that really increases their risk for hospitalization and even early death. So a big part of what we do is making sure the homes are safe enough to prevent falls.
I want you to continue on your needs. I'm sorry. I want you to continue on your needs assessment and going through that list. But you said something on your Instagram about falling, like people fall a lot, but falling is normal or something like that? Yeah,
people think that falls are a normal part of aging, and that it's not a normal part of aging. Having certain changes in your body, that is normal. It becomes abnormal when you fall, right? So it's normal. It's a normal part of aging to get a little bit slower, to have some challenges with your balance, right? But once you've had a fall, you've had repeated falls, and your risk for injury-related deaths, it goes up. And injury-related deaths, the number one cause is falls. So it's more than just breaking your hip, because even breaking your hip at a certain age increases your risk of death.
Right.
Because then what happens, you don't move around like you used to. Even after rehab, you're not as mobile. And I talk about falls a lot, and I was like, I'm going to always talk about falls, because people say, oh, she fell a couple times, but that's normal. She's old. And, and even if I can't change the way you think about that being normal, you do need to understand the risk, and that there are certain things that we can do, to help prevent that or to mitigate that risk,
That's why so it's interesting when you asked me about my parents, right? Because, that's the main reason why we moved them down to North Carolina to live in Wake County with my aunt, because, them just not having too much family up there anymore. And then my grandmother was falling a lot. Mm-hmm. My grandmother's going to be 91 this year, God willing. My mom was just too weak to pick her up, so she would just literally have to stay there until somebody came and picked her up, So, now she's in Wake County, Wake Forest, excuse me, with my aunt. They got an elevator in the house, all that, a ramp,
Exactly.
So that's kind of like what the needs that you were talking about, that goes along with that,
Yes, because, certain homes, a lot of homes don't have, they have an access issue. Yeah. So there are a couple of things with access. You need to be able to get in and out of your home safely for a lot of different reasons. You have to go to doctor's appointments. You need to maintain a social life. Mm-hmm. That's important for your health. But what if there's an emergency?
A fire.
And we've seen that. You've seen that in New York. You've seen, you've seen it happen in New Orleans. Yeah. So access is an issue. Also, what we call visitability. That's an issue. That's a concern. If that's your mom or your grandmother, and you know what, you're having Thanksgiving dinner, but it's going to be at your house, because your house can accommodate everybody. Yeah. But guess what? There's no ramp. You got 3 or 4 steps to get in. Right. So now we have to have people, be able to lift her up, if that's even an option. If that, if she's capable of sitting in a wheelchair. So there, we want it to be a conversation where we understand that everyone is aging. To get older is to age. And if we can start making some changes to our homes that benefit everyone, then, it's just easier. Because then I don't have to worry about, what if my mom has to go into the hospital and then she can't be home for a while and she needs someone to stay with her, she needs to stay with someone, she can come stay with me, because it's easy to get in and out of my house as well. Mm-hmm. So what usually happens is they'll send a referral, and just some standard things, widening the doors, okay, because it needs to be a certain width. Mm-hmm. But most falls are happening in the bathroom, right? Mm-hmm. And bathrooms are very small, and you have that door. I've had patients who have been on the floor for 3 days. Oh, wow. Yeah. Because they fell behind that door in the bathroom. Yeah. So sometimes when I go into the home, if we can't remove the bathroom door, since they live alone, it's just easier
to take it out.
To take it off, right? Mm-hmm. And you can always do a little shield curtain over the door for privacy. Mm-hmm. And always carry your phone with them. Have one charging in the bathroom. We've made that recommendation. So some of these recommendations are very simple, and others are, because some people can't afford the life alert system. The I've fallen and I can't get up. Some people can't afford that, so you just.
There was just a new policy passed on that recently. I don't know if it was in Georgia or nationwide. I have to look it up, and I'll put it in the write up for this cast when it comes out. But there was just a new law making life alert free.
It should be free.
I don't know if it was for Georgians or maybe even a nationwide thing for people of a certain age, but that was just done. I think maybe in Georgia.
I hope so. And you know what? And that's what it's going to take, because what they realize is that by 2030, 1 in 5 adults will be over the age of 65. 1 in 5. And the majority of adults, once they get to that age, have 2 or more chronic illnesses. You're talking hypertension, diabetes. Yeah, so hypertension, that comes with, medication. You have to monitor your blood pressure. You have blood pressure changes that increases your risk for falls. Mm-hmm. Diabetes, you have diabetic neuropathy. Mm-hmm. Numbness and tingling in your extremities, and if you can't feel a threshold, you can't feel something, it's easier to trip and fall. So we're the government is really looking at hey, we're having an issue, we're going to have an issue in 10 years. We're having an issue now, but it's going to be really bad in 10 years. Mm-hmm. So, and everyone can't go into the system. It's going to overwhelm our system. So what can we do to prepare for that? Mm-hmm. And that's where the conversation has to come. Now, I've had to, break bad news to family members before and say, you know what, your parent or your loved one is not able to live at home alone. That means, that means she has to go home with someone. She doesn't qualify for a nursing home placement, but she's not safe to be home. And what does that mean? And I've had family members freak out, and they should, because, hey, I live in another state, or I work full time.
Right.
And so what people also need to know is that Medicare does not cover caregiver assistance.
I was going to ask that. We're talking about nursing homes. I was going to ask, does Medicaid or Medicare cover caregivers?
They do not cover caregivers. But what in the past, because I've been doing this for a while, they did not reimburse clinicians for spending more time training the caregivers, and most caregivers feel unprepared. And we've been saying this for a long time, and now they finally get it. Like, what's starting to happen is that the caregivers themselves are starting to be hospitalized, and they have a higher risk of dying before the people they're taking care of.
Wow.
So it's like, and then who's going to take care?
Right.
There you go.
So
I can see that too. Yeah, I see some caregivers in there. They don't look too in shape themselves. You know what I'm saying? And
my aunt back home has MS, so she's bedridden now, and she's been through 3 or 4 different caregivers because they couldn't pick her up to put her in a wheelchair, and they would just quit, not come back.
And not come back,
Yes.
And we see that a lot, because also my home attendants and my CNAs are taken advantage of. They're not paid well, and I would say it again. I have witnessed them being verbally abused in the home, being bullied. And, I have to step in real quick, like not on my watch.
And verbally abused, not just by the client, but
no, I'm talking about by family members.
Family members,
Yeah, it's a difficult job.
It is.
And when people say, like, right now we're having an issue that there aren't a lot of caregivers, a lot of trained caregivers like your CNAs and your home attendants, because it's a high risk job. And we've had CNAs who couldn't even afford healthcare assistance, so they would come down on their lunch break to get treatment free for us.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, they can't even afford. They can barely afford the ride back home.
They have to take it.
Yeah. And so, and there's just not a lot of them. There's not enough to fix the problem we're going to have. So what Medicare is doing now is they're incentivizing caregiver training, and they're putting a lot of money towards making sure that the family members are trained, and then sometimes compensated. So that's going to come, because some of these people require a lot of help. 12 hours, like 9 hours of caregiving in a day. Some people. Sometimes it doesn't, but it's difficult if it's just 1 or 2 people.
Right.
And the bulk of that is falling on typically the oldest girl in the family. It usually falls on the oldest girl in the family, but statistics are saying among men, it's the black men. Black men are stepping up, and they are more, I guess, more so than other ethnic groups, more likely to be primary caregivers.
Okay.
And we're seeing a lot of that.
I can imagine that, because it's almost unheard of, with some of my colleagues I used to work with when their parents got older. They wasn't taking them in like that. You know what I'm saying? And I hate to sound ignorant, but it seemed like that was a black thing.
I did it
to take your you know what I'm saying, because they kind of live by, I don't want to say all of them, let me not but they say stuff like their parents say, well, I did my job in raising you, your job is not to take care of me now, you know what I'm saying, go ahead and live your life and stuff like that. So that's kind of like the creed that they kind of live by. But
not
like,
us so much.
Us we be like, nah, we can't see, you know what I'm saying, now if we're in a position where we can't, like you said, where we can't take care of, then maybe. But I know nursing home for black folks be like the last.
That's what I was going to ask your opinion on nursing homes.
A lot of it is a resource issue nowadays, and she can go into this, but you touched on something earlier with the government recognizing that there's a problem.
Yeah.
People are living longer.
Oh, yeah.
Nowadays, the life expectancy is longer. So even those who are affluent enough to put their folks in reasonable care, even those who have bought long-term care packages and stuff like that, they are still outliving their money for the care.
Yes, they
because
are.
we're staying alive longer, and for us. So we're talking about the financials of it all. Black people are underserved financially in America than our counterparts.
Okay.
So oftentimes it's automatic that our folks are aging in place in the home because we didn't have the resources to put them somewhere.
That's right.
And then when we did have, when they could qualify for Medicaid, unless there's been improvements, and I don't know much about the field, I know for a time Medicaid facilities was not where it's at.
And they are not. They're still not where it is. And I worked in nursing homes quite a bit. And yeah, I think things are going to change with that. Things are moving more towards value-based care and quality, and reducing hospital readmission. So if a person is in the nursing home, they came from a hospital, they get penalized. The facility is penalized if that same person has to go back to the hospital within 30 days, because they're saying you should be effectively managing their care, So the model is shifting from, high billing to hey, we'll pay you based on how well you keep this person out of the hospital. And so in the community, what that looks like is really managing chronic conditions and staying active. And a lot of people have trouble and difficulty doing that. Because some people need assistance with giving insulin. I mean, there are a lot of people who go home with insulin and have a difficult time actually doing it, because they got diabetes. So a lot of people fumble the needle, or they're not able to properly take care of it. And as OTs, we're able to go in and help sort of problem shoot that. We're kind of like life hackers in that way, because if they can't effectively monitor their glucose levels or their blood pressures, then the chances are that they're going to have something, an adverse event is going to happen.
Inconsistent.
Or inconsistent. And, it kind of snowballs from there. Another issue is that in most of our communities, we don't own the homes that we live in, and so we can't really modify. And if you do modify things, you can, but apparently you have to turn it back after you leave the place. You got to turn it back to its original state.
So you built the ramp, but you
got to break the ramp down.
And, it was crazy. You would think that the ramp would improve the appraisal rate. You understand what I'm saying? It's an improvement to the home, really.
Well, not if somebody younger want to move in there next. I don't.
And if people don't want to,
if I don't need it, if you're a 25-year-old, maybe a 25-year-old that works for Microsoft or some shit like that.
Right. The wood ramp in front of the street.
Right. It's not cool.
He just got his Ferrari and shit.
That's definitely not good for the chicks pulling up to visit the bachelor pad.
Who you live with?
I knew this nigga lived there.
You live with your mama? It's like, we don't want that. We don't want that. Yes.
That's funny.
But yeah, what are your opinions on nursing homes? Because I worked in this since I was 15 years old until college. One thing I said, my mom gets old, even though she get on my nerves.
Yes,
I did.
Found out a fun fact about
Ashley. Fun fact.
Fun
You can always get a job in a nursing home.
Right. From age of 15 until I graduated on the summers. But one thing I said,
I know
being
the old
in there
man was really flirting with
you.
I know that. The old man be disgusting. And those are the ones that go viral. The rudest ones. The rudest ones that we go be like, hey, shake her tits, give me a yogurt.
Hey there, Pearl. And they be nasty too, right?
Especially the old white ones be there.
Yeah, but it was. It's like up in the white area, so it was a lot of the white.
They be like hubba. Look at the legs on those. Oh my gosh.
Shut up. Anywho, my question is your opinions, because I said I would never put my mom there because it's nasty in there.
That
smell, and then the treatment they would receive. People were lazy. They were sitting on they weren't taken care of.
So I'm hoping.
Yeah, I've
worked in some decent ones
outside.
Or I would not want to go to my grandmother in her legs with her legs cut off before she passed. And my mom said, we'll take care of her.
Right.
So my sisters would go down and change her and take care of her because she said we're not putting her in a nursing home.
Right, and I do think that. I mean, I wouldn't put my parents in a nursing home if I couldn't. Yeah. Unless I couldn't provide for them. Now, there's situations where that is the best.
Right.
That's what's needed. You have some people who are, on a vent and their family members have a difficult time managing that, or maybe they just require total assistance.
Right.
Meaning they can't move their arms, their legs, they can't. And so it always takes to people to change them. And are you going to always have that in the home, right? Some people have a difficult time operating Hoyer lifts. So some of these people that live in like to their 90s
operating what? I'm sorry.
Hoyer lifts. So the lift.
Oh, the lifts. Okay, I got you.
Remember those lifts? So if you have like someone in their 90s, a lot of times their daughter is 70.
Right. True.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a 70-year-old,
Yeah.
a 70-year-old trying to lift someone who's is a lot of weight and then does not participate in the transfer? So it's a lot of work. Yeah. I would say nursing homes, I expect them to improve based on what's going to happen because, they have to reduce the risk of skin breakdown and bed sores, and what that means that those patients, those residents have to be changed frequently, and they need to be turned frequently, and they need to be, you have to maintain their level where they are, so they need to be in, activities. And so I am hoping that this new model will kind of, because once you get hit in your pocket, that's when you realize stuff, right?
Right, gotta change.
You gotta change. So you have to do certain things to improve the quality of life for these individuals. At one point, I thought I was gonna be a nursing home administrator, but it's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah.
It's a lot to manage. It's personnel management. And typically the people who own nursing homes are not healthcare professionals. They are businessmen.
That's right.
And so the first thing they do is cut, they cut costs by cutting labor. And so when you have one aide who has like 10 patients, like these patients, like how do you have 10 patients in a nursing home and most of them require a lot of assistance to get up and to bathe? That's not really good. States like California, they are very particular with their their nurse to or professional to resident.
Don't they do
ratio? They're really big.
It wasn't so expensive. I'll bounce
they do that right. They play their nurses.
They do
well.
a lot.
They do that right. I mean, and that's important because there are a lot of people leaving nursing. Well, all the money that's being made. If I see so many TikToks with, it was a toxic work environment. The money is great, but I am overwhelmed. I am stressed. I'm not healthy.
Right.
And so, I personally, I would like to say that I would not put my parents in a nursing home. My mom would get upset with me and she would say, when I'm old, just put me in a nursing home. It's like, no.
My mother says that.
My mom said,
like,
hell no, don't put me in a nursing
home. But there's some good ones though. I've seen some really good ones.
Your mom, young as hell, she ain't gonna no nursing home no time soon. What
she says it all the time.
She gonna run that shit. She got a nursing
right.
She gonna run that.
Like her mother.
How old is your mom?
She asked you.
How old is your mom?
How old is my mom this year? My mom, I think, is...
She about to get on you.
Well, I don't...
I apologize.
It's excusable now because she didn't... So I'm 42 this year. So that means she's 50. She's turning 60 this year.
Oh, okay.
59 this year.
Yeah, so she is young. Yeah, but still, my dad's 62 and he's waiting for a bilateral hip replacement. That's
and my mother's already had hip surgery.
My dad just had hip surgery this past February.
Yeah. My mother has had 2 hip surgeries, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, really.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
it's a lot.
So pretty much that's it. This is the big, what I want to start a conversation about what are we going to do, or what are our expectations for our parents? I
get scared.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie.
So you already thinking about it. A lot of people don't even think about it.
I really do. As I see them getting older, I'm getting emotional. I get anxiety about it.
Well, you'll be surprised that some people never think about it. And I ask them when I have to say, you have to take this one home. Well, I guess you'll be on the curb then. I've heard that. People have said that.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't do it. You don't understand. You are telling me you want me to take my mom home, or my dad home, or my loved one home, whoever it is. I can't believe you're asking me to do it. Yeah. And I think you're wrong for asking me to do it. And I'm looking like,
I would do it,
gonna do it?
I'm just afraid of them getting older and getting sick and not be able to take care of themselves, because they're so mobile now. But my dad, I see with his hip now, he does move a lot slower.
Yeah.
So knowing that he's gonna maybe need help one day, it just makes me nervous.
Right.
It gives anxiety.
And so one thing that this is where it's going, the whole tiny home revolution, right? She sheds, ADUs. One idea is that as we get older, and you know, our houses are what they are, but having your family members close by, if they aren't able to live at home alone, considering that option. I mean, early on, when the first person that made them, they called them granny pods. But there are people who are making these small units, and it may be 14 by 14 square feet, but big enough, you know, the bathroom, you know what I mean?
Wow, yeah.
But to start thinking about things in this way, because, and it's hard to think about something like that when you're young, but hey, I see, you know, I see it every day. People at 30 years old have a whole family, now have to figure out what to do with their parent, pregnant.
And then we also have to think about it for ourselves. Not to tell of our age. I won't tell.
I'm 42.
Age. But you know, I'm
shit. I'm gonna be 41 tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm 40. I'm 42 this year, and about 45 is when the age that we need to start trying to figure out how to begin funding for when we get older.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it takes that long to fund a decent amount of time under a decent amount of care.
Right.
Because there are people who aren't about to die, but having to live out their last 10, 15 years struggling in really poor circumstances.
Yeah.
And having their children deplete their savings and their retirement.
Yeah,
I've had people who were who 70 years old, depleted their entire retirement because they had to provide care for their parents.
Yeah. Yep. That's happening.
I didn't even think about the financial aspect until just now when you said that.
That's a conversation.
I'm too worried about being afraid of getting sick older, but let alone the financial part. You're right.
And that's a conversation we need to have in our own homes about ourselves in the future. But we all need to be having these conversations with our parents. And our parents do, like what Frank said, you know, I don't worry about me. No. Who's going to take care of you?
Right.
And what does life look like for that person? Can't have a traveling job.
Right.
There you go.
No.
Your lifestyle changes.
Your lifestyle completely changes. So who's able to fit that lifestyle? Fund that, you know, where are the finances coming from? Yeah. Because even if that person quits their job to take care of you full time, now how's the mortgage getting paid?
Yeah.
They probably have to move to Georgia. With me or Randy, I could just see that because I can't see my brother William or April doing that.
Just call them out on that.
They know, and they know.
And so that's another thing. I hear a lot of people say this to me. Excuse me. Oh, she don't do nothing. She just send money. Because the bulk of the money. And
they need the finances.
And what I say to them,
do it without money.
There's some family members, man. I mean, because you would think like you're in trouble if you only have one kid.
Yeah.
Man, I've seen families have 5 kids. Only one person is involved. I mean, they may have means, or may not. They don't send anything. They don't call. I have my own problems, and
they be the loudest ones at the funeral too.
Oh, not only are they the loudest ones,
that's that guilt.
No, but they take stuff, so they go behind. They change things. So I mean, I'm a clinician, but I would say, you really have to get a will, you have to get a trust, whatever that stuff is, and that's someone who specializes in long-term care planning, the financial aspect that we all have to talk about. But that is
we may have to have a show on estate planning,
right? Estate planning, because that is one of the first things that you need to do, aside from from the things that I'm talking about. Like, say your parents are in good health, so the stage that you were focused on more so would be the long-term care financial plan. And so having someone who does that, and there are financial planners that specialize in older adults and sort of in that way, and just can kind of guide you through that, and also through dividing assets or whatever you need to do, or who's going to be the decision maker, because people don't think about that until it happens, and we have fights. I mean, we've had custody cases, elder abuse. I mean, it can get really messy. It does get really messy very often.
How do you go ahead, Jay?
Okay, I'm sorry. In your field, have you run across experiences where you've had to deal with same thing, aging in place, occupational therapy, when it comes to folks with special needs?
Oh yeah.
How does that? What are some of the things, the considerations that may work into that?
Right. Do the needs change?
Oh yeah. I mean, there are certain conditions that, their needs, they're going to age as well. So some people with special needs, let's just say the ones who have more, decreased mental capacity and decision making, what you've seen as they've gotten older, they've been in the system of care. So the people who are providing care for them have kind of always done it or managed it. So it's not this, there's no huge surprise in these conversations. They've already had conversations towards that. I've not seen really a lot of problems towards that, but also there are, things set aside for them, right? For people who are disabled or have special needs. So there are more options for them as they age in place because they're protected, right?
Oh, that's right.
They are protected, so there are more options for them.
I can't remember, but on Millicent's show, she mentioned it falls under the same thing. The act that protects the children with special needs.
504 or something.
Like the IDEA? IDEA?
IEP?
Well, IEP falls under the 504, but there's
Talking about the new law they just passed or something?
No, not that. It's something that's been existing that protects them.
Individuals with disabilities. I think it's that one.
It falls under the American Disabilities Act, but there's a certain section of the American Disabilities Act that affords them certain funding for certain things.
So let's stay of course with that, because since we are talking about, all right, so children, right? So I understand your background is what gave you the passion to work with aging adults.
Right.
However, have you ever worked with children? Is there anything that you
have? I worked with kids. I've worked with kids in an outpatient setting, like kids who broke their wrists.
Okay.
Or their thumb, like just in rehab in that sense.
Yeah.
But no, I've not done peds. Like I've not worked with, kids with special needs.
Okay.
I've not worked in the schools. I've pretty much phys dis focused, so hospitals and things like that.
That's pretty much my knowledge of OTs. Because I've always worked in school setting.
Right.
So they had OTs that one I can remember. He was awesome. He used to do like everything sing song, like learning through song.
Yeah.
And he used to work with the kids, their fine motor skills and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if you have kids. You have children.
Yeah, we have a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old.
The Wiggles. All those guys are like special ed teachers and OTs, former OTs. Like the band, you probably seen it on Netflix or whatever. They're huge success overseas or whatever. But they're the Wiggles or whatever. They do all the songs and stuff like that for kids.
Right.
But anyway, like that's exactly how they started. They started with doing sing song, and then they just say, "Hey, we need to make this a business." And then next thing you know, they were on tour. They're like the Jackson 5 of like OT. So no, but the reason why I was asking, like, was there, you were never as passionate about children, though?
No, and I'm gonna tell you why. My mother works with kids, and she worked with kids with special needs, but she worked in the school system. She just retired this year, and I remember, no shade, mama, but when she came home, by the time she came home, she was tired. And I knew that I wanted to be very intentional with my kids, and I wanted to give them the best of me. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
And I just don't have that level of patience.
Yeah,
that's real.
They're not my
real.
people.
Yeah.
I mean, I love kids. I love my kids.
For real.
Yeah.
But I know my niche, and I'm for the old
That's
folks.
real. That's real. There's
That's
a lot of
real,
people that say that I love my kids.
Right.
But, but I know a lot of people that's like that. They don't love kids at all.
I look at it as you saving kids from being abused.
Yeah, I mean, because your patience.
If you don't have the tolerance for the patients, that's what happens though. When people don't have the tolerance for the patients, and oftentimes people who are in that industry, they're underappreciated, overworked, and underpaid. Yeah, that's what leads to mistreatment.
That is, and I agree. It leads to mistreatment. But my mom was really tired. I mean, she retired this year. She was awesome. She loved what she did, but like she was tired, and oftentimes she was a single mom. She was struggling, and she was tired by the time she got home. And I remember talking to a neighbor who was also an educator, and she said, and we were talking about kids, and I think maybe I just had a kid, or something, and I was thinking about going back to get my master's, and even that, it was just like, do it before your kids are in school because it requires so much. And I asked her, she had four kids. How did you manage that? And she just has a different level of patience and different spirit. And she says, it was a lot, but I was able to manage. Not everyone is, because when you come home from being everybody else's teacher slash parent, then you have to come home and be excited when your kids walk in the door, because that's their first. They haven't seen you all day,
right?
And they need, they need love and attention too. And so I'm really not that kind of OT. I'm definitely more biomechanical and function related. I'm a basketball player.
Yes.
Initially, I was pre-PT and glad and very happy that I switched over to OT. But initially, I thought that I was going to work with athletes. But I don't like them.
Because there's a lot of similarities between physical therapists and OTs.
Oh, yeah. Especially, yes. In that realm, in sports med, outpatient therapy, typically the OTs get the shoulders, the elbows, and the wrist injuries and the hand injuries.
Right.
I just wasn't as passionate about those people, I just didn't like them like that.
Yeah.
I didn't like them like that.
That's
like
real.
Honesty.
Because
That's
you're
no
doing
chaser.
this. You're getting paid. You do, but you want to love what you do. And like when
Right.
I started, I remember being in Chicago because I got my first job in Chicago. So I was in Chicago for 7 years before I moved to New York, and I started doing home health.
Yeah.
When I started doing home health, oh my God. Because I really love old people. I was never interested in history. Never until I started doing home health. The
Really?
number, yes.
Yeah.
I think that's when I started
They talk to you
reading
and everything. Yeah.
Oh, you want the real history.
Right.
You want the
love to-
real
I
tea.
can sit and listen and talk old black men talk for hours.
Yes. I love old. Yeah.
There, I've worked with people who were political figures and would give me the real scoop on the history of the city. There was one patient who was just so dear to me. I would make him my last patient of the day because I would stay for an hour, 2 hours, and be having tea with the family.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like after the session is over. But like they really sort of became they're my people. They became my people. And I was, I didn't have any family in Chicago. So my patients literally became my family.
That's beautiful.
And so a lot of the relationships I have are from, those experiences. So, I just believe that, and I'm all about that bridge also probably because I lived with my grandparents, my grandmother for a long time, close to my grandparents. And, that those were very important relationships in my life. I just love older people.
I'm laughing. I'm laughing because sometimes that shit can go left though. It's the history. You know what I'm saying? Like it depends on who you talking to.
It can.
Because I
got one.
Hold on, really quick story. I was getting pizza one time in Stone Mountain, right? And I'm waiting for the pizza to come out. This old guy, he's like explaining how he loves black people. Like I don't know, it's like nobody. I love black people. I was like, I didn't even ask you that. So, but he was telling me a story about how he was like a track star. I think he hurt his leg, and I saw him, and he was like, I'm not in the shape that I used to be, man. I was the such and such track star in high school, but then that's when the school got integrated and like they allowed black kids. So there goes that. He's like, there goes that.
There goes that.
There goes my career.
I laughed, and then I was like, because he was like, shit. But I was like, wait, so hold on. Are you for or against? Like, so I didn't know how to take this.
But I love y'all, but I love y'all black people.
I learned how
like-
bridges were built through my grandfather.
Really?
Yeah, my grandfather, rest his soul. I learned to sit and listen to old black men for hours. My grandfather, my great grandfather, especially on my mother's side, and my other grandfather, my father's side, love him, man. But he's telling me how bridges were built, and they were rolled of concrete, and how people he helped build the Commodore Barry Bridge that leads from Chester to New Jersey, and the Delaware Memorial Bridge that leads from Delaware to New Jersey, and one of the bridges lead from Philly to New Jersey, and he even worked in big Chesapeake Bay Bridge, and they were rolled of concrete. Sometimes they would lose men would lose their lives because they got to keep rolling that concrete in the water to make that bridge. Stopping people would fall in, and it was a real dangerous job. And I remember, shortly after he died, we was all sitting reminiscing about it, and I was like, yeah, he used to tell me how he used to roll them concrete and he used to help build them bridges, and everybody in the room said, he told you that shit. He didn't work on none of them damn bridges.
Nigga was your hero.
You know the story, though. You know the story.
They killed me, man. I was going around telling everybody for years. My grandfather built that bridge.
My granddaddy did that. What your granddaddy do? Your granddaddy ain't do shit. My granddaddy built that bridge.
They killed me.
It's
with
a lie.
that.
It's a lie. It's all a lie.
So
Earl ain't built shit.
they be telling them, old folks be telling them stories. They be
They do
cat
now.
because they ain't got nobody to G check them.
That's true. But they good stories though.
They great stories.
Yeah.
I'd rather believe them.
Yeah, me too.
That
Listen,
is
I'm believing
funny.
him.
He's an old hater. It's always an old hater in the room.
There's always one. There's always one.
Yeah, I thought my grandfather was like a war hero and shit. My grandmother said, nah, he ain't do that but push buttons. He ain't never shot a gun. I don't even believe he had training. He ain't do nothing. He stayed in the back. I think he was a mailman.
Then wouldn't you have rather believe that he was a war hero? Like, why?
Yeah, don't tell him. Don't ruin it for
So-
me.
I watched him roll that flag up, and it was, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So to this day, I don't care what nobody said. Ralph Stroud helped
built
build
bridges.
all them bridges up and down the East Coast.
Catch A. Freeman.
We
Stick to that story, Jay. Stick to
made
that
up
story.
story.
Stick to the story. No, but that was definitely one of the questions I was going to ask as far as like PT and OT. But when I see like it says seniors that's recovering from strokes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a lot of things that you guys cover, man. It's
Yeah.
memory loss.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Memory loss, depending on what the cause is, and sometimes when you're dealing with memory loss, and especially when you're dealing with patients who have Alzheimer's or dementia, which is the next wave hitting America. Like,
My mom has
Yeah.
yeah. So I think instead of focusing on, and there's a whole like dementia TikTok or granny TikTok, there's some like caregivers really doing a great job with their loved ones, and I have to sort of big up them, and I watch them because that will soon be a lot of our realities. My grandfather he's also been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, so we're just starting to see some changes though.
Wait a minute. That's the second time you mentioned caregivers on TikTok. Is there like a hashtag you put in to find this?
Yeah. Put in granny TikTok, you're gonna find them there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to laugh,
Yeah, TikTok got something for everything.
They
like holistic,
do.
like diets, like
yeah,
everything.
TikTok is like
Yeah.
I mean, but what I like about it is the, people showing real life,
Yeah.
and grannies going off, because just because people old don't mean they're wise.
I'll be
I mean,
watching
some
them.
of the stuff that they say,
Yeah.
Yeah, TikTok is weird, man. I'll be
Yeah.
watching them removals, the blackhead removals.
oh, the blackhead, the poppet stuff, yeah.
I don't know why I got a fascination with that. I just be looking at it the whole time like, for 15
Yeah,
minutes.
everybody,
Nasty.
yeah, whole
Nasty.
accounts. It's yeah.
Yeah.
How
But-
do you have those tough talks with patients that you get attached to with their family members when they have to be placed, so you can't take care of them no more? Like, how do you prepare yourself for that mentally?
Yeah.
And do you get attached? Because I get attached easily. God, when they would die in
yeah, I
nursing
get
homes, I would
attached.
cry like they were my family.
I
Like,
get attached and not gonna stop.
How do you deal with that?
I don't know. It's just the way. How do I deal with it? I get attached. It is what it is.
Is it mentally draining, emotionally draining on you?
No. Well, I don't know. I think I can take it. I think I can take it. Losing my grandmother, both of my grandmothers, was the hardest thing that ever happened to me. I can take it.
now you take it.
I mean, outside of the possibility of losing someone close to my
Right.
husband, my kids, my parents.
So you went through the personal trenches already, like.
for some of the older people in my family,
Yeah.
because I was just really close to both of my grandmothers, so that was hard.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah.
So it's like I still tell Gio, I'm like, I'll be laying in bed, it's like, man, I miss my nana, like I miss my grandmother, like it's often, and you
Yeah.
would think that it would go away,
You don't.
and they,
Yeah, I do that.
but I could be a straight shooter, and I'm okay with telling people how it is.
Yeah.
I am, and the reason why I'm okay with that is because my grandmother said something to me. My mom's mom was a straight shooter, but they both were. But she said something to me about a story about her and her girlfriend. So, they all cook. They old Southern women, baking pies, cooking cakes. And my grandmother was known to be a good cook. And her friend said, Creasy, taste this. What you think about this? That this one good. And my grandmother tasted it. And she says, oh, it needs a little bit of something. And then the lady said to her, she says, you just can't never say, just be quiet. You just can't say it's good. She said, but you're my friend. And if I don't tell you, who gonna tell you?
Hello,
Right.
somebody.
There you go.
And so
what
that's
you
the
just
approach
said.
that I
Just
take.
say it's good.
It's just
Yeah.
like,
You're gonna be honest.
it's difficult to be honest with
Right.
with your family members. And I feel like it's better for them to kind of lash out on me than their children or other members of the family. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to take it and yeah, cuss me out. And I said, okay, I'll give you a day, but I'll be back
I'll see you
tomorrow.
tomorrow. I'll see you
Right,
tomorrow.
right.
I'm
That's
going to be
dope.
back tomorrow. So, you just kind of, it's
You have to have tough skin.
you have to have tough skin, and then realize how difficult it is for people to realize that they can't do the things that they, just simple things like getting dressed, needing help, getting dressed, or going to the bathroom. It's a dignity issue.
Yeah.
And having to tell someone, like, hey, I think it's time for us to move to a wheelchair, or a cane, even a cane. I mean, whatever it is. I think, right now, to be safe, we need a different device, so we need to try something else. Raised toilet seats. I mean, honestly, would make life so much easier if all the toilet seats were higher.
Yeah.
But a raised toilet seat, I'm tall, I would say that. But a raised toilet seat,
I need one.
yeah, exactly. Like, knees just not what they used to be.
It's a long drop.
And so
Yeah, I be on the phone a lot. You know what I'm saying? My damn,
you go,
feet be falling
no,
asleep.
exactly.
Nah, I'm saying that. Like she said, knees ain't the same. So that slam down is getting harder and harder.
I'm only 5'5". I don't know what y'all think.
Right. But
5'8" above Frank.
Oh yeah, that's right. You taller than me.
I'm 6 foot.
Yes, we love it. But you would think that that's just simple. That's
Right.
not a big deal. But we get a lot of kickback based on that. I don't want my friends coming over, or my family coming over and
and
seeing
seeing
that,
that.
or a bedside commode. It's a dignity issue because
Yeah.
maybe their partner is still in the bed. You know what I mean? It's still next to them, and that's just imagine a romantic partner. And now all of a sudden you have to get up and use the bathroom next to the bed. So just approaching those subjects, as gently as possible, because that, self-care, especially toileting, and that can be a really
The
hygiene is a really sensitive issue.
Yeah. It's crazy. You are my Aunt
So many
Linda,
things
man.
I've never thought of.
You are exactly my Aunt Linda is who's taking care of my mom and my grandma right now.
Oh.
So she's has tough skin like that. You know what I'm saying? And she's doing an immaculate job though. I always give her props because
She's the only one.
she is currently right now. She is the only one that's really like taking care of the both of them. So it's like honestly, it's just a pleasure whenever we do get up there and see her, my wife and I.
Yeah.
The best part honestly is helping her put my grandma into the wheelchair because I get a chance to hug her because that's the how I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to grab her like this. And, so it's pretty cool, man. It's and like I said, she had the whole house revamped. Handicap ramp that goes up in the garage, and then she has the elevator that she put in.
She's dope.
My mom, because again, living up in New York, falling with a day, like you said, 3 days and stuff like that.
3 days and a 4th floor walk up.
Yeah.
Also, like, just the number of people who can't even get, like, if you, what is it, like anything more than 6 floors, then you get an elevator. If it's 6 floors or less, or 4 or less, then they don't have to put an elevator in.
Yeah. Okay.
And so you have a lot of people who've been in the same apartment for 30 years.
Yeah.
And so, they trying to get them moved down to a ground unit.
Yeah,
It's hard.
with dead weight and everything like that, my grandma's a little too heavy for my aunt to pick up by herself. So, realistically, she may not leave her room again until my next visit. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So let me ask you this: has she had a therapist come in?
Oh yeah, she has a nurse come in daily.
She has a nurse come in, but she have a therapist to come in to introduce something to make the transfers a little bit easier.
She does not, but shout out to the nurse. What's her name again, Tiffany? Nikki. Yeah, Nicole. Yeah, she is the exact opposite of what you were talking about. She is above and beyond her duties. She cleans my grandma and so and she's there with her for hours on end. So to be honest with you, I can't say enough about that woman. But to answer your question, no, she does not. I don't believe she has a therapist right now. I think she did but
Right.
she's getting old, so it's, not everybody she can, handle, so I mean she does get a fair share cursing out some people and stuff
Right,
like that,
I understand.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I mean, but now the speech is delayed and everything like that. Now she's kind of a little more submissive, and she's just we all just preparing,
Right, exactly. So and just making her comfortable and enjoying the time you have with her.
Absolutely.
There's a company, there's a nurse here, Michelle Bowden, and her company is Call for Caring, and she is in the Atlanta area.
Mm-hmm.
She has a caregiving academy, so and it's no cost to. I think there's some criteria, and I know it's going to be starting soon.
Yeah.
But her mission is to train caregivers, so that's her contribution, is to create these opportunities where people like myself come in, and provide, like, let's practice doing safe transfers, right? Let me show you the safe way to handle someone who has a hemiplegic arm, right? So you don't pull it out of the socket. So there are a lot of those things that are happening, and you're going to see a lot more. Because, like I said, it's coming, it's here, and we just really need to do our best to prepare for it. And I think as long as there's a conversation going and the wheels are turning, we may not know what to do, but what is stressful for me is when I have to tell someone who never thought about it and just see the life leave their eyes. Like, imagine if you never thought about your life just literally changed.
Yeah.
Your life just literally changed. And now I'm talking about caregivers, because I have a soft spot for them, because their lives are impacted. Because now what do you do with your life?
Yeah. Kudos to you, Phaedra.
Yeah.
For real,
Yeah.
because, honestly, this, like, this, we say, we give our elders praise verbally.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of behind the scene that we don't do. And we have to be real with ourselves. And this is a show. This is the podcast for Black people, by Black people, about everything Black. We got to keep it real about our Black people. We not, we kind of let our elders fall to the wayside. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's where we get our wisdom from. That's where, So, definitely kudos to you for even having the passion to do this, because it's
a beautiful passion.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Well,
It
before we get
definitely wasn't popular, I tell you that.
Well, salute you. Before we get up out of here, we want to ask some advice you can give to people like, us whose parents are getting older, how to prepare and what we should put in place now.
Okay, so check out your local area of aging in whatever cities, because they are pretty much like a resource for everything. So any grant programs that are happening for home modifications, because the government they're remodeling homes for people who are aging in place who meet certain criteria. So check those agencies out, because your parents could probably qualify for, maybe a ramp, maybe a bathroom remodel, or maybe a rail. Sometimes it's just 2 rails. It could be a stair lift. So definitely check out your local area on aging. Talk about, a financial planner. I think that part is important, and having the conversation, who do you want to handle what?
Right.
Because parents, we don't realize, have, strange feelings or relationships with different kids. And we've seen that. And there are some kids who they don't want to do anything with the money or any, so make sure you have that conversation, involve them in that this discussion, and so that they can lead it. So they have a right, because when you get older, so many of your rights is, kind of like taken away from you. So go ahead and give them an opportunity to say, hey, what would you like to see done?
Right.
I would recommend that. I'm going to always rep OT, even if you just get an evaluation done or a needs assessment, or just have an ongoing relationship with an OT in your area, to really take a look at the person in the environment and the things that they need to do, and know that those things are going to change. The person is going to change. And so as they change, we may need to adapt the environment, because there's a couple things that we want to happen. We do not want them going back into the hospitals.
Right.
We do not want them falling. So anything that you can do to keep them active, and I guess keep them social.
Yeah.
Making sure that they maintain, their socialization. there are some people who are even in their 80s now who are doing like the senior citizen Zoom stuff classes. And so helping them navigate things like that, having those conversations, that some of them are a little bit hesitant to join, but once they figure it out, they're very excited and they look forward to it. Right? So those are the biggest things, making sure that the home is safe and finding an occupational therapist in your area who specializes in home modifications, or a certified aging in place specialist. And if you go through your local area on aging, they'll be able to point you in that right direction. I'm also going to recommend a case manager. Typically, they're social workers or nurses. And I think that they are probably one of the biggest resources for making sure that the medical side lines up. And, you should know, everyone should know a social worker.
Okay. Any advice or encouragement to caregivers out there right now that are going through it? Some uplifting words.
Words. Oh man, I pray for you guys daily.
Yes.
We see you, and people are seeing you.
Yes.
And help is coming. People are putting programming together for you, and we are thinking about things with you in mind. And I would prefer to call you a care partner and not a caregiver, because so many times we have been taught to say, whatever the patient wants, and we kind of shoot a caregiver out of the way. But everything, this person is doing everything. So even the shift towards including them in decision making is happening. We're starting to realize that we won't make it without prioritizing them and their health and their well-being. So there are a lot of caregiver sort of like groups. So I would recommend joining those groups, those support groups, because unless you've been a caregiver, you won't sort of identify what they go through. Yeah. So, and you need that support. Everyone needs someone who can kind of see them. So.
Ooh, this was amazing. I appreciate it.
Definitely.
Yes.
It's a great combo.
Something you don't think about often.
Or
I try not to, but it is reality.
And a lot of things within the subject matter we would have never considered.
Right.
A lot of people our age group that really have to start thinking wholeheartedly about a lot
parents,
of this, a lot of these issues.
Especially the ones that don't live in state with them.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's one of the reasons why we moved more south to be closer to family. Yeah. So.
Wow.
All right.
It's important. But thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for coming. I know, right?
Yeah.
About to digest.
And where can they find more information?
On our website?
Yes.
www.theneighborhoodot. Also on Instagram, The Neighborhood OT.
You have amazing videos, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
And I love that title, The Neighborhood OT.
The Neighborhood OT.
Yeah.
Like a superhero.
Oh,
Right.
thank you. So yeah, Neighborhood OT, The Neighborhood OT on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And then my website is www.theneighborhoodot. And you can just shoot me a DM. It's easier. Just shoot me a DM. If you have any questions, even if you don't live in Georgia, if you live in New York, I have a lot of connections there.
That's dope.
So I can kind of guide you.
Awesome.
Appreciate that.
Awesome.
No, you're welcome.
And if you want to see the visual version of this podcast and this information, please go to youtube.com/The Truth No Chaser. And that's youtube.com/The Truth No Chaser. And then when you get there, please subscribe and then hit the little bell so that you get alerts from when we post new content full of good information for you.
Yes, and also if you want to follow us for more merch content on like where Jay got that fly ass hat, you can always check us out on thetruthnochaser.com.
Until next time, keep walking in your truth, Black people.